consider additional evidence in that direction. It remains to be seen whether the court will accept that disqualification question at this stage.
Okay. Now, Barrister Nwokocha now, yeah? We do not know yet because the document has not reached the public space. We don't know yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we don't know what is in that document. But let's go by what has been reported. First, from the president's angle, where he said harm will, happen to him if those documents, be released, because propaganda and lies will be used against him. And then you look at what Atiku is petitioning for, and he's saying, see, we have documents in public space and they are contradicting each other, and it looks like a lie must have been told under oath. So when we look at these possibilities, there is the possibility of what you lawyers call, is it perjury, something like that? And if that is the case, do you think the court will want to listen? The Supreme Court, that is.
First, I've listened with interest to reactions to that argument put forward by the president's team at the court in the United States of America. Okay. I must say that as a lawyer, I do not make much of it yet until something actually comes out from the investigation that is of interest. Because it's the usual thing to say when an issue of this nature arises. The question is whether it will cause harm to the other party. So any party who is supposing such thing will definitely have to say, it's not in my interest, it will harm me. To persuade the court to lean on the part of protecting the private interest of that person.
All right.
So I don't take it from the point that I have had a lot of people say, oh, the man knows there is something terrible. Oh, there is nothing terrible until something comes up that is of interest. It's just a legalistic manner of speaking, opposing an application for a private and otherwise private document. What you say is that it's not in your interest and it will harm you, therefore the court should not grant belief that the party is seeking, since it's not in your interest.
But
so it's when something comes out that we can talk about.
But let's still, because yet again, I'm looking for where the lawyer in the United States representing the president said, and he was quoted. Now he says, let's see. Obtaining more documents via a subpoena, particularly ones that are not part of the INEC submission by intervenor, is both improper and nonsensical. The unlawful release of documents previously allowed intervenors' opponents to sow confusion and spread conspiracy theories. Now, applicants should not be permitted to conduct discovery, and the discovery illegally obtained by applicants' allies and intervenors' political opponents. Discovery on discovery is rarely appropriate, and is certainly not appropriate when the sole issue applicant identified is the intervenor's submission of his diploma to INEC. Now, the part I am of interest is the part where he said it will be used to sow confusion and spread conspiracy theories. So, if the certificate is straightforward, and that's why we're having this conversation, would it sow confusion? Would it sow conspiracy, or would it spread conspiracy? That's where I'm looking at it from.
Certainly, if the certificate is what it was claimed to be, it shouldn't spread any confusion. However, you expect an opposing lawyer to advance arguments that will oppose the arguments advanced by the other party, who would have said it's of public interest and will not harm the other party and all that. So that's the point I'm making, that in a general terms, an opposing lawyer will argue the opposite. It's not in public interest. Even if it's in public interest, it's against the interest of my client. Do not grant the application. That's the point from which I was saying.
All right.
But if something comes out
Prof, let's say something comes out that is perjury, what happens then?
Yes. Now, it will be for them to convince the Supreme Court to grant them leave to bring that additional information in the hope that that was part of what was argued in the original case. In the hope that that was argued in the original case. But if what was argued in the original case is, disqualifying him because he was involved in this and that. But I think this is different. The issue of a certificate is different from the other allegation of over 40 years ago.
All right.
It will be a question of their being able to convince the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court grants them leave to introduce such new evidence, then the Supreme Court will have obligation to pronounce on it.
All right. We'll go for a quick commercial break. When I come back, I would be asking, what if the court does not give them leave? Then what is the constitutional process? So I would allow you to, think on that when we come back. It's a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation, please.
That's all right.
All right, then. Hard Facts with Kala Dakorubatibo on 92.3 Nigeria Info is ongoing, and we've been talking about the current situation of the president's certificate and the legal implications. And I have over the phone Richard Nwokocha, Professor of Law, Rift State University. Welcome back, Professor Nwokocha.
Thank you, Carlos.
All right, then.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I said before the break that now you were explaining rather before the break that the Supreme Court can grant the petitioners, I'm talking about Labour Party and the PDP, leave to add additional evidence, and that is if they are able to prove a substantial reason or give a substantial reason why that evidence should be allowed to be submitted at the Supreme Court level. However, if the court does not grant the petitioners leave, and yet the petitioners are able to find something that is wrong, maybe yet again perjury, what then happens at that point?
Nothing, because the court in question is the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is supreme because this decision is final. So even when the decision is fallible, it is still final. There is no appeal from the Supreme Court. It's the last court. So whatever it disallows stays disallowed. And in fact, that question should take us to the next interesting point that we may have to look out for, whether the court will accept an argument that the president, who is under Section 308 of the Constitution, declared to be a person against whom any civil or criminal investigation cannot be conducted, whether it will grant an application for him to come and explain a criminal allegation and all that. I think those will all be interesting matters that will have to play out in the Supreme Court. Should the leave granted by the court in the United States lead to any document that qualifies as
three arms of government? We've got the legislative, judiciary, and executive, and the legislative is supposed to, so say Supreme Court does not see anything wrong and does not embrace the new evidence that may be gotten from the court, that is, if there is any evidence. Do you think the legislative will be able to play a role? Because once again, according to the Constitution, they are supposed to be, the arm of government that checkmates the other arms of government.
On this particular matter, no, because it's a judicial matter. It's a matter for decision making, and the Constitution sets that power in finality on the court, with the Supreme Court as the apex court. So, with respect to an issue over the illegal, non-constitutional conduct, so anybody to try to run the decision of the court.
You go ahead.
Reform that gets to a different effect should a similar thing happen in the future. But you cannot take steps to overturn the decision of the Supreme Court on that matter.
Professor, is this overturning? Because, the question I asked is, let's paint a picture where the court does not entertain the evidence, does not grant them the court the leave rather to submit that evidence. So the court does not treat the matter of perjury, but then there is the finding that perjury has been committed. In such a case, can yet again the legislative arm of government jump on it? How we play politics in this part of the world. Can that even happen?
I'm afraid no.
Okay. I
if it is with respect to that issue about the Supreme Court has acted.
Okay.
Perhaps the question you're asking is whether they can consider impeachment.
That's what I'm saying.
Impeachment has to be a standard right for which the chief executive can be impeached, even though the language is at the legislature is convinced, is satisfied that the person has engaged in a conduct that amounts to gross misconduct. But again, you are talking of the past. You're not talking of the present. And it will be most likely that even in such consideration, the fact that you're talking of what is in the past, not a conduct engaged in by the person while in office, may become an issue.
All right, then. Okay, so let's open the phone lines. Thank you very much for your time. Just stay, would interact with some of the listeners, and I'll get back to you in a bit. 23 minutes to the top of the hour. You're listening to Hard Facts on 92.3 Nigeria Info. I am Kala Dakurubatabo. Now, I've got a question for you. All of these back and forth, I want to see your certificate. I don't want to show you my certificate. All of this back and forth. How does it affect Nigeria as a country? Some people have said, our image in the international scene has been tainted somewhat. But really, does it matter? I was watching national TV. Peter Obi was on TV, and he did mention that some of the greatest leaders in the world in time past, in history, were not even graduates. He mentioned Churchill. He mentioned, I can't remember the guy from the president, from the United States part, because he mentioned different leaders.
Problem Winston or something.
No, Winston Churchill. Okay,
yeah.
I can't remember the person's name.
Churchill,
yeah. So I'm looking at it. We've looked at it from the legal angle. So if the Supreme Court does not entertain it, then it means that the matter is, finished. It's done. And impeachment, like my guest has said, most unlikely. So how does this affect? Because there's been so much noise about this certificate issue. So what are your thoughts? I'd like to get your take on this. 0817 923 0002. 0817 923 0002. That's the first number to ring the studio with. The second number is 0817 923 0003. For WhatsApp, 0809 030 6416. Remember, there is a call screener, a nice lady. She's going to take your name and your location, and she will part you to the studio to come, to have a conversation with me and the professor over the phone. All right, Jen is calling from Elime. Jen, greetings to you. Welcome on the show. Jen, good afternoon. Welcome. Oh, sorry about that. I've got Braid from Port Harcourt. Braid, greetings. Welcome. What's your name?
Canada.
Braid, welcome.
And, good evening to the resource person.
All right then.
My question is this. Now, among this issue concerning the certificate and the other relevant documents, what if really that certificate was not bearing the president, or is adding the opposite sex as this? Now, what should the country do concerning that to Mr. President?
But that's the same question I've asked, and I'm asking for your thoughts on that. I mean, we've treated that already.
How would the country also wash their dent in at the international community?
Okay.
And the last one, also, Mr. President knows fully well and also tender a forged document to the country.
It's not yet said to be a forged document.
I said if it is true, then what should happen?
All right then.
Thank you,
Braid. Your questions have been noted. We'll get to them shortly. I've got Kunle from Borokri. Please turn off your radio, please.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kunle. Welcome.
Now, first of all, I hope a lot of your morning newspaper columns are listening to this.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of people who don't listen to discussions like this. They come up in the morning and you hear a particular kind of intonation from a particular part of this country. You'll be taught closely. Then secondly, my issue is this. Before we get to this point where Atiku is running Etasketa and all that, the DSS or whatever service have done their own work.
You think
to
so?
know, whether the president now and other contestants there then were eligible to contest. If there's any secret, if there's anything. Now, where do we place the role of DSS in all this? Haven't they done their own work very well to be able to unravel or unveil some of these things that Atiku is not trying to bring out? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Kunle. Kunle, thank you for your time. I've got Barry from D-Line. Barry, greetings. Turn off your radio or listening device.
Yes, Andrew. Good evening.
Canada it is. Andrew is morning.
Sorry, Canada.
Yeah.
Sorry, Canada, my man. Sorry.
Welcome, Barry. Let's talk.
So, for all the questions you put across to our resource person, the man I respect so much. Whenever he says, I'm afraid, because he asked me the technical question, and he said he is afraid to bring up my note. When he says, I'm afraid, that tells me clearly from the time I've been following him during the days of Dayo, that was supposed to go in the other way. But it will not go, and as a lawyer who respects his profession, he doesn't want to condemn his profession. I don't know if you get it clearly.
I'm listening to you.
That's number one.
Okay.
No, number two, I am ashamed of INEC and INEC chairman. In short, it is the duty of INEC to do certificate verification, not even DSS. INEC was supposed to do this, but one man single-handedly hand over Nigeria to one particular individual who is affected today.
All right.
And I'm afraid if we continue like this, next election, nobody will come out, nobody will vote, because people are so angry. People don't want to. I've also told I've told my voter card. I've told away.
No, don't worry. I believe by 2027 you would go and.
It will not work. You can't convince me.
I'm not going to convince you.
Civil society that convinced me this amount.
Okay.
So it will not work.
All right.
I will not do it again.
All right then.
I took the risk, and yet I was so disappointed.
All right, Barry. Thank you. Thank you. I've got Kenneth from Port Harcourt.
Hello,
welcome. Yeah. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let's hear your thoughts, please.
Okay. Well, this issue for me, I see it as a national embarrassment.
Okay.
But my prayer is that it doesn't come out to turn to a situation that what they allege is true. Because if they do, if it is true, I don't know where Nigeria will keep their faith in the international community. I don't know if anybody is bigger than the law in this country.
All right.
So with the league, I feel the lawyer should be able to tell us so, because Nigeria, this is too much for Nigeria to bear out. That's my opinion.
All right. Thank you very much. I've got John Omudioga finally, so I can get back to my guest. Welcome.
Yeah, Canada, good evening. My greeting to the respect person in the studio.
Right.
Good evening, brother.
Yes, my name is Alete. I want to just ask a simple question. What is the president is finding because? You said you have attended university. Why is he still finding it difficult to bring out the result?
He has submitted. He has submitted the diploma to INEC
of Africa.
Okay.
Look at what the president is doing. All eyes on Nigeria, and we have a president. I attended River State University in 2006. That is when I got admission to study marketing in River State University of Science and Technology. My credential, my everything about me is there. What is Ahmed Bola Tinubu is finding difficult, and we are blocking articles not to access it. And we are ruling a country that will have professors, who have medical doctors, who have learned people, and you are ruling those people without you providing your own. And INEC is there. Depending at Ahmed Bola Tinubu, somebody who
no. All right. Thank you, John. I've got to let you go now at this point. Before I get back to you, someone has just reminded me the name of the American president of history, and he said Abraham Lincoln. That's the name I was looking for. Yeah. This other one says the best thing for a president to do is to resign honorably because his image on the international scene will be distorted. But why didn't INEC and the political party validate the authenticity of documents tendered to them under oath? Donald from Iguruta. Now, I need to point out that there has been no fault found yet because the documents are yet to be released, by the way. We should emphasize on that. But we're saying what if, and that's what we're looking at. This one says, let the judiciary be careful not to plunge the country into an avoidable deadly crisis if finally the findings land in case of forgery and perjury against the president. I advise Supreme Court accept the evidence without because it will already be in public domain and might trigger unpleasant scenario if the country is decided. Victor from Egbima. But back to you, Prof. Professor, is there any part in the Constitution that says the president must reveal everything about him?
No, all that the Constitution requires is that you present your proof of qualification, and that's why blaming INEC is difficult. You recall that the president has been senator before.
Okay.
Let's say he was senator for 4 years. He has been governor for 8 years.
Okay.
That's 12 years.
Yeah.
He has held very senior public offices that more than qualifies him for one who can express himself in English language and possibly has had primary education or school certificate. Remember, the Constitution keeps using or its equivalent, so it's not specific to the certificate. So you can't blame INEC for that. Secondly, INEC again is allowed to satisfy itself whether a person, what the person presents is satisfactory in the case of something lower. The last part of that interpretation, it says, or such any other certificate, any other qualification that is approved by INEC. So it's very fluid and very open. So it's difficult to blame INEC in the circumstance. I think the question that all this is raising is whether somewhere along the line has been a perjury. And what should be made of it? I think that's
what we have been talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
So someone is asking on Facebook, Ogu Ojun Justice, if Nigeria's judgment in a U.S. court have any bearing on the country. Peradventure, it favors the petitioners. Can you address that, please?
Certainly, a judgment given by a court. Remember, in this case, no court is even given a judgment. All I have done is to grant leave to somebody who applied for leave of court, where leave of court is required to compel an institution to release a document. So it's not a question of the Supreme Court being bound by decision of a court in the United States or a magistrate in the United States. No, it's a question of whether the interrogatory or the discovery conducted by the interested party in Nigeria who went to the institution attended by his opponent reveals anything that is useful. So it's not court judgment now, but authenticated certificate or authenticated document proving perjury that will be before the Supreme Court and not a judgment of the court.
All right.
So,
all right. I think someone mentioned the Supreme Court, and a couple of people actually, and someone also made reference to your comment, saying something about you're afraid it's not going to be accepted. Can you collect that part for us, please?
I don't know what to say. I'm afraid of something, of the fact that something may not go that way. Everything is possible, but the probability of those things happening is another question. So I think for everybody, we agree everything is possible, but may not necessarily go the way that is possible.
All right.
So that's what I am referring to in that case. You need to respect the fact that the Supreme Court will eventually have to make a decision. We are not sitting on the matter. The Supreme Court is, we have to defer to the possibility of what the Supreme Court will do and not to decide for the Supreme Court.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take one more call and we wrap things up. Let's see. I've got a lot of messages. I don't even know where to start from. But this one says Nigeria will have no issue with the international community concerning the moral standard of President Tinubu because majority of those before him were even worse morally. Those stands defending Tinubu. I'm not going to continue your message because it's not what we're talking about. But like I said, one more call and then we wrap things up. 0817 923 0002 and 0817 923 0003. I've got Frank, and Frank is calling from Ngbogba. Frank, welcome. What's on your mind, please?
Yeah. Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening to you.
Yes, I actually want to clarify something here. The prof said that INEC is not to be blamed.
He said he said it's difficult. Now, Frank, listen. Let's get what he said right. It is difficult to blame INEC because he has been senator.
Okay, difficult to blame INEC.
He has been a senator. He has been a governor for 8 years, and that's where they're coming from. Where it's coming from, actually.
Sorry, that shows the Maradona in the act of the person. You understand me?
I'm listening to you.
That he has done it to become a senator, done it to become a governor, done it to become this or that, doesn't compare somebody whose duty is to read so claimed qualifications some people are submitting to attend a particular position. You understand me? The security organization, JSS, NIA, and all of them, they verify the politician. So nobody could go to the extent of contacting the alma mater of the schools. But here we are giving excuses for failures. This is international embarrassment.
Okay. All right then. All right. Thank you, Frank. Frank, I've got to go. International embarrassment, you say. But Professor Richard Nwokocha,
yes.
Can I have your final words? We're almost out of time. 60 seconds, please.
Well, yes. We just have to understand the fact that he who alleges must prove.
True.
The mere presentation of certificate does not mandate INEC to travel overseas and investigate things, especially when there are other evidence showing that the person has previously been a judge qualified. So I don't think it's that part is matter for INEC. The right thing is what is happening now. Those who are contesting the validity of that are going in accordance with the law to try to show that. I think we are in the right step.
All right, then.
And in the right direction.
All right, thank you very much for your time. Commercial break up next. I hope we can talk in the nearest future on other issues concerning the development of the country.
Anytime. It's a citizen's responsibility.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Richard Nwokocha. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Come with me, bask in freedom. There are no